Ahoy! Eli here, coming at you from OSA Coventry, here today in front of the saltwater aquarium section. Here today to talk about one of my favorite peaceful community saltwater fish, and that is these beautiful little zebra bar gobies that I have in front of me here. Contrary to popular belief, these guys are not actually gobies, although many people do consider them gobies. They are actually dartfish. It includes the red firefish, purple firefish, and fish of that nature, which none of them are true gobies, but they definitely do resemble them on some level. However, these are a great peaceful fish for most of your reef aquariums or a small peaceful fish only aquarium. These are a smaller fish that only reach about 5 inches or so full grown, and they do live a decent long term in captivity. So they're definitely something that you could have for a handful of years to admire. And these, unlike say your firefish, tend to do really well in groups. So generally a group of 3 or 5 of these will do quite well in your aquarium. And once they get nice and comfy, they will be out and about all day like you see in this aquarium behind me. When they're more recently introduced, it is pretty normal for these fellas to be a little more reclusive. Oftentimes they will hide under rocks with just their heads poking out for a little while until they get acclimated and adjusted to their life in their new aquarium setting. However, generally they will acclimate quite quickly, and they become quite active, outgoing fish down the road. As I mentioned, these aren't terribly large fish. Max size for these guys is right around 5 inches, and it takes them quite a while to get that big. So generally you can keep them in quite a small aquarium. I would say somewhere in the 30 or 40 gallon range would be a starting size for these guys. And as well as they do in groups, they do also do okay as singles if that is something that you desire to do. Unlike some of your other group dwelling fishes, these are probably more of a shoaling fish. They don't necessarily school, and that just refers to them kind of all congregating in one area, but they don't necessarily move in any sort of organized pattern. They do tend just to hover around the same area with each other, and this kind of just makes them feel a little bit more comfortable in their setting. Diet for these fish is going to be pretty simple. They are not very picky. Oftentimes you can get them trained to a quality pellet food, but most of your frozen varieties of food are pretty palatable for these guys as well. Mysis shrimp, brine shrimp, spirulina brine, mega marine, any of these major name brand frozen foods are going to be sufficient for these fish. I have not really run across anything that I could not get these guys to eat, and they tend to be quite a hardy fish as well. Definitely not very prone to many illnesses, and they are definitely a very beginner friendly fish at that. So definitely something, if you are newer to the hobby, that would be a cool addition for a smaller tank. And really peaceful, gets along with just about everything else in the aquarium as well. Appropriate for most of your smaller aquariums. Like I mentioned earlier, with these guys being a little more timid when they first enter the aquarium, sometimes certain fish will pester these guys. So I have seen issues with more aggressive gobies or blennies, sometimes taking exception to these guys in the aquarium. Although it's not very common, sometimes fish will quarrel with these fish, and that generally will just push this fish into hiding. And then making sure you don't have anything that's too predatory with these fish, say a snowflake eel, larger, more aggressive wrasses or puffers sometimes do take a liking to teasing these smaller fish. So definitely important in making sure that these go into a more peaceful aquarium to make sure that they do better in the long run. But overall, the zebra bar goby is a really cool, pretty smaller fish to add to just about any smaller reef tank. Very peaceful, and they offer a really cool color and pattern. Once they get acclimated to that tank, they are pretty active throughout the day. So definitely something cool to add to those small tanks. As always, thank you guys for tuning in. Let me know in the comment section below if you have questions or maybe suggestions for future videos. And as always, keep on reefing.